Good, happy Wednesday evening, February 5th, 2020. I'm Riley King, and welcome to the Riley King Newscast, right here on the Riley King Network. We have a lot of news to get to this Wednesday evening, so let's begin. First up, Trump acquitted of all charges in Senate impeachment trial, will remain in office. Let's take a listen to that video from WHDH 7 News, Dan Housley.
The New Hampshire Department of Corrections has immediate openings for corrections officers. Apply today.
And we begin at 5 with breaking news.
Donald John Trump be, and he is hereby acquitted of the charges in said articles.
The impeachment trial is over. The Senate just voting to acquit President Trump, and the vote happening mostly along party lines, but not completely.
Right, because former Massachusetts governor and current Utah Senator, Republican Mitt Romney, the only member of the GOP in the Senate who voted to convict on one of the charges. The acquittal bringing it close to the third presidential impeachment trial in American history. Let's go right to the nation's capital with Dan Housley with a look at the vote and other developments today. Dan?
Oh, Adam and Kim, it was a moment in history. The third U.S. president impeached and then acquitted of the charge. We've seen for weeks now the Capitol Hill lawmakers, the Senate particularly lately, debating, making statements, but today they were asked to say just one thing: guilty or not guilty.
Donald John Trump be, and he is hereby acquitted of the charges in said articles.
The senators stood one by one. First on the abuse of power charge. On that charge, the vote was 52 to 48 to acquit. And remember, they needed 66 to convict here. There was one senator crossing party lines. Mitt Romney voted for the conviction charge, saying he was convinced the president had committed a grievous act. On the abuse of power charge, though, Mitt Romney stayed with his party by a 53 to 47 vote. It was by strictly party lines. They rejected the charge of abuse of Congress. Mitt Romney explaining earlier why he was voting to convict the president.
The allegations made in the articles of impeachment are very serious. As a senator juror, I swore an oath before God to exercise impartial justice. I am profoundly religious. My faith is at the heart of who I am. I take an oath before God as enormously consequential. I knew from the outset that being tasked with judging the president, the leader of my own party, would be the most difficult decision I have ever faced. I was not wrong.
After that speech, the president has yet to react, but his son, Donald Trump Jr., tweeted, Mitt Romney is forever bitter that he will never be POTUS, President of the United States. He was too weak to beat the Democrats then, so he's joining them now. He's now officially a member of the resistance and should be expelled from the GOP. As far as the Massachusetts senators, we have Senator Warren and Senator Markey both voting guilty on the charge of abuse of power and guilty on the charge of obstruction of Congress. President Trump has been seen today, but has not been heard on the subject of impeachment. He greeted the president of Venezuela at the White House. There was to be some time inside the Oval Office where we normally would hear from the president. That was canceled. We'll have to see what the White House has to say and what the president has to say, but that has yet to come. The White House was hoping for some kind of bipartisan vote against impeachment. Instead, they got a marginally bipartisan vote for conviction of the president, with Republican Senator Mitt Romney crossing party lines on the vote of abuse of power. Live on Capitol Hill, Dan Housley, 7 News.
Dan, we know, and our viewers certainly know, that you've been in D.C. really since 2016 when the new administration, the Trump administration, came in, and then since the beginning of this impeachment trial. As you just draw back and reflect on what you've experienced, and this is important for our viewers who don't get to be...
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. If you want to watch the rest of the video, we will have a link for you right after the broadcast. Student shoots, kills himself at Second Start Alternative High School in Concord. No one else injured in shooting, police say. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9.
The greed and corruption undermining our democracy is bigger than one man, and so is the solution. We will make billions.
Well, Mike, taking a live look at the scene here, the State Police Major Crimes van has just arrived at the scene, and there are units of State Police and also Concord Police at this alternative high school. Now, the call came in around 10 a.m. this morning, scrambling all available Concord Police units to the school here on North State Street. According to someone affiliated with the school, this alternative high school has about 10 or 11 students. They were evacuated later this morning. The AG's office has put out a press release, and while it doesn't mention the shooting, it does say that this was an apparent suicide and that no one else was injured. And we are expecting possibly a briefing later on today. There are some other crews. We do have a crew at the scene of the possible briefing, but the AG's office has not definitely confirmed that that will take place. We also have reached out to school officials to see if they have a statement as to what happened here. The school officials did say they were concerned primarily right now with making sure that all their students got home safely. Reporting live in Concord, Ray Brewer, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. School in Manchester placed on lockdown during search. Police say no threat found. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9.
Free.
That's right. TurboTax Free is free. Free, 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 free.
Also breaking this noon in Manchester, police are now giving an all clear after a search led to the lockdown of a school. This started after a report of a man seen acting suspiciously in the area of Titus and Floyd Avenues. That's near Mount Zion Christian School. Police now say there is no threat and the lockdown has just been lifted.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Joe Biden speaks at Get Out the Vote rally in Somersworth. Democratic presidential hopeful Joe Biden spoke at a Get Out the Vote event Wednesday in Somersworth. State of the State address postponed until next week. Sununu to deliver address at State House on February 13th. Governor Chris Sununu State of the State address for Thursday has been postponed because of weather. A storm system bringing snow, wintry mix, and rain is expected Thursday. The House session has also been canceled. The governor's speech will take place next Thursday, February 13th at 2 p.m. The speech can be seen live on WMUR TV and streaming in a video player above this article on WMUR.com and inside the WMUR mobile app. And now let's take a look at your U.S. stock market and see how your U.S. stock market closed for this evening. And here's a look at that U.S. stock market for all of you for this evening. And your Dow Jones Industrial Average closed in the green and went up. Your Nasdaq closed in the green and went up. S&P 500 closed in the green and went up. Gold closed in the green and went up. Oil closed in the green and went up. US 10-year closed flat. Euro/USD closed in the green and went up. And VIX closed in the red and went down. Dow jumps 480 points. S&P 500 closes at record as market shares off coronavirus fears. Stocks rose for a third straight day on Wednesday, pushing the S&P 500 back to levels hit prior to the coronavirus scare. Retail giant Macy's announces massive cuts. Let's take a listen to that video from CBS this morning.
In today's Eye on Money, Macy's, America's largest department store company, is trying to end a years-long slump by closing 125 low-performing stores and slashing corporate jobs. The company announced yesterday that it will close about a fifth of its locations over the next 3 years. Macy's will also cut around 2,000 jobs at its offices in Cincinnati and San Francisco. It's unclear how many retail workers will be affected by the store closures. CBS News business analyst Jill Schlesinger is here. Jill, good morning. I was looking at a graph last night. At its peak, Macy's had 800-something stores?
Yes, and now going down to 400. And this is a company, like many other big department store chains, that's been suffering from dual challenges. First, from some of the big boxes, like a Walmart or a TJ Maxx or a Target, some of whom have been much better on pricing. And then the advent of online shopping and Amazon. And it's really startling to look at one particular graph that I saw also, which is the stock price of Macy's over the last 5 years versus the stock price of Amazon. Macy's down by 74% over the last 5 years. Wow. Amazon up by 437%. I mean, that is pretty startling.
Macy's, Jill, can they stay in business? Will they stay in business?
Well, I think this is going to be an interesting pivot because the CEO came on board a few years ago, is really focusing on what are our best performing stores. Let's close these massive stores, some of which are in malls where people aren't going anymore, focus on the high performing stores, but they're adding a couple of things. They've got a lower end brand that they're bringing on and actually opening new stores. They're going to try something else. Smaller stores, about a tenth of the size of the current Macy's store, and see if they can put them not necessarily in a big, massive mall, indoor mall, but maybe in a strip mall where more people seem to be shopping and opening their wallets a bit.
So is this another sign of the broader death of traditional retail? And what does it mean for the thousands of people who work in that industry, whether it's on the front lines or in the offices?
Let me start with what's going to happen to the people who work there. It's a terrible thing when these stores close because a lot of these people who love being salespeople need to find jobs. These are not people who are necessarily going to go into a warehouse and start packing for one of the big online retailers. Hopefully they do find jobs in other sales locations because sales is sales. It's a great skill to have. So I'm hopeful that they can move over. As far as, that's really tough to say. There were 9,300 store closures last year. Wow. It's almost a 60% increase from the prior year. This is a trend that will accelerate. I don't think we've seen the end of it.
I'm still holding on to the mall, losing that battle. I love a good mall.
I actually have seen you walking around the wall.
Very good, Jill. Jill, thank you.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. And tonight is night number 1 for the Democratic presidential town halls, live from New Hampshire. 2 night events starting tonight at 8 p.m. New Hampshire presidential Democrat town halls, days before the crucial New Hampshire primary, a CNN special 2-night event live from New Hampshire. The CNN Democratic presidential town halls start tonight at 8 p.m. right on CNN. Let's take a look at a preview of the event.
Tonight, the first night of a 2-night event. Biden, Warren, Yang, Steyer, live from New Hampshire. The CNN Democratic presidential town halls, starting tonight at 8, only on CNN.
And it will be held on St. Anselm College this evening. And that does it for this evening edition of the Riley King Newscast right here on the Riley King Network. I hope you all have a wonderful night, everyone. I'll see you back here tomorrow with another newscast. And I'll have a news report coming up in a little bit. Good night and bye, everyone.